Guys, welcome to the J. Scott Outdoors podcast. This is going to be a great episode with Cody Nelson and Mark Denham of the Outdoorsmans in Phoenix, and I want to thank them for their sponsorship of this podcast. I also want to thank you guys, the listeners, for your just loyal support to the podcast, and I appreciate getting emails, Facebook messages, direct messages on Instagram from you guys, the listeners, every single day. And I do my best to answer immediately the questions that come in. And I'm so thankful for the comments that you guys give about the podcast. And I really appreciate all of the support as far as you guys telling your friends. And I appreciate the support on the comments on iTunes. And I want to remind you, if you haven't and you do enjoy the podcast, can you go on iTunes and leave me a positive review? Leave me a fair review. Leave me a fair, positive review and a 5-star rating if you like the podcast, and that helps our placement on iTunes. I want to thank the sponsors of this podcast. Obviously, I'm doing an episode here with the guys from the Outdoorsmans, but this podcast wouldn't be possible without the support of the Go Hunt Insider, Lorenzo Sartini and his crew. And we're just kind of towards the tail end of application season. We've got Arizona deer and sheep coming up. The regs should be out any day now. And those applications will be due in June. So we're going to have a bunch of stuff to cover on the deer and the sheep. But I want to thank Lorenzo and his crew for doing such a great job with the Insider. And I'm getting lots of response back from you guys, the listeners, from those of you that are Insider members and are using the Insider tool, the resource to draw tags across the western United States. And the support for Go Hunt has been overwhelming in the fact that they just keep getting better and better, and the draw odds, the harvest statistics, all of the stuff that's in one place at one time. I've gotten great feedback on that. If you're not an Insider member, you can use the J. Scott promo code, and you're going to get a $50 KUIU gift card just for signing up. Make sure to use that J. Scott promo code when signing up. I want to thank them. I want to thank KUIU.com, Jason Harrison and Brendan Burns over at KUIU. Their team in Dixon, Colorado does just a phenomenal job creating the best ultralight hunting gear available on the market. And I'm looking forward to going on a mountain goat hunt late this summer. And we're going to be doing quite a bit of podcast episodes about the gear that I'll be using, and as well as all the Dall sheep and mountain caribou hunts coming up this summer, and then all of the regular stuff, all of the elk and deer and sheep and all of that. I want to thank KUIU.com for their sponsorship of this podcast. It means a lot to me. I've been using their gear since they came out in 2010, and I get a lot of response from you guys how much you like KUIU also. Also want to thank Cheston Davis with phonescope.com up there in Beaver, Utah. Cheston's company, phonescope.com, makes the best digiscoping adapters. They can match any optic with any phone, and you'll be immediately taking photos and videos of animals. And if you use the JScott16 promo code, you're going to get a 10% discount there at phonescope.com. And then, of course, the Outdoorsmans, Mark and Cody are going to be on this episode. And if you use the JScott promo code when you either call in 1-800-291-8065 or go on the internet or walk into the shop, you get a 10% discount. So, guys, let's get right to this episode. I'll be headed off here going Gould's turkey hunting. I'm going to be gone for roughly 3.5 weeks. I've got a great lineup of hunters, and I'm really looking forward to that. I've got the podcast all set to continue loading episodes, and I will be periodically in phone service and out of phone service. When I'm in phone service, I'm going to be checking in. I'm going to be checking my messages, my emails, And it's just a great time of year. We got application seasons, elk season. The elk draw has been out in Arizona, New Mexico. We're waiting right now on Colorado and Utah and Nevada, and some of the other states. But great times turkey hunting. You guys send me pics of turkey hunt photos that you have. Love to see the success. Let's get right to this episode. Welcome to the J. Scott Outdoors podcast. I'm down here at the Outdoorsmans, and I've got Cody Nelson.
How you doing, Jay?
I've got Mark Denham.
How you doing?
Good. You guys look like you're busy down here. Stuff's rocking, huh?
It never seems to stop lately. The boys are busy.
That's good, man. The FedEx guy just came, and it seemed like you spent an hour here taking stuff in and out.
Yeah, no, it's our off season has kind of ramped up a little bit. We don't get much of a break anymore. It's pretty much year round now.
Yeah, Floyd always used to talk about those definitive
lull periods.
That March to June 1st or July 1. Not anymore.
No.
Well, that's good
I think it's because people are doing doing way more than they used to. They're hunting, they're shed hunting, they're
turkey season.
Our backpacks have been flying off the shelf lately, and it's just I think people are getting in shape, and they're getting their gear ready way before, and I think there's a lot of people doing a lot more than they used to, so it's not so seasonal.
One thing that you guys got going on, you announced that Loophole is now being carried here in the shop. I was curious your thoughts about that.
Well, first of all, we're very excited to have them. Loophole's got that. Loophole's been around for a very long time. They've got an instant credibility. There is something about kind of they've got good looking gear. They do it right. It certainly hits a lot of different markets. They've got high end all the way to the simplest and like their rifle
entry level
series.
stuff.
Entry level, absolutely. And it's I think that Loophole, for the most part, I think that there's so much now in that middle market that I think that they kind of lost their way for a little while, and we've been watching certain aspects of the market, and they seem to be making a real push to not reintroduce themselves, but attach themselves and understand that Western style of hunting. It's been here for a long time. It's not going anywhere, and I think that with their marketing and a lot of different stuff in the past 8-10 years, they just weren't engaged as much as I think they could have been, and I would tell you that the fact that we're doing something with them now has been this has been over a long period of time. I would tell you that they originally approached us. We started really looking at them really, really hard, and to what they could do for us and what we could do with their product, because they have such a wide spectrum of products, and they've got law enforcement, they've got a lot of stuff that maybe people don't know we get contacted a lot about. So it fits our way of business and our mold, our system. And Mark's got a lot of experience with the military side of things, and the law enforcement side of things, and I think it works for us. I think it's a good fit.
Speaking of that, Mark, I introduced you by name, and I just assume people know who you are, but I've had Cody on the podcast. I don't believe I've had you on. You're the son of Chris Denham.
Yep.
And Chris Denham of Western Hunter Magazine and Wilderness Athlete. Mm-hmm. And you have a background in military, correct?
Yeah.
You were in the military.
Mm-hmm.
Why don't you take a second
still am.
and kind of give us a breakdown on kind of your bio and how you came about to be here at the Outdoorsmans?
Well, I was basically born and raised in the Outdoorsmans. I've been in this shop. I've been in this shop for a very long time. It honestly, the working here and not working here kind of blends together. When did you start working here? I don't know. I mean, I've been working the road shows with the Outdoorsmans for 5 years now.
Yeah, Mark's been a huge part of the outdoors, our road show stuff for at least 5 years.
Yeah, so I've been doing that for a really long time. I kind of helped fill in some gaps, some date gaps there, like last year sometime, and it made sense at the time. I had just finished school up in Prescott. I got a degree in gunsmithing from Yavapai College up in Prescott. I've been in the Marine Corps Reserves for almost 6 years now. My contract ends in July of this year, so I'm done with that pretty soon. That's been awesome. I've been here in Phoenix for 6 years, but it's been a great opportunity. Never got any awesome opportunities to do any of the some of the really cool stuff. But being here, it gives you it's still an awesome opportunity that I had. So it's a really cool setup. And
Mark's what we like to refer to as a plug and play guy. When we hired him, we were looking for people, and in the back of my mind, it kind of kept thinking, God, he's just being,
perfect fit.
I kept thinking, there's no reason not to hire him. And we really did. We all talked about it, and Floyd and Mark's dad.
So what he's saying, he's just hired you out of default.
Exactly.
Yeah, no,
just pity.
It was but it's not even.
we always make jokes that me and my sister actually, we always make jokes about Chris Denham's son and Chris Denham's daughter, because for the longest time when I get introduced to somebody, the longest time it shows, it's like, hey, this, I'm Mark Denham, and they kind of like, oh, hey, nice to meet you, and there's the look of, who is this kid? Yeah. And then I'm like, I'm Chris's son. Oh, right, you're Chris's son. Okay, now I got you. So you can email me at chrisdenhamson@outdoorsmans.com. I do have the email set up, so you can go ahead and just email me there.
And I would say sometimes he claims you, but sometimes he might not.
Yes.
And your sister would definitely maybe not claim you all the time.
Most of the time, no. Most of the time, no. She has no idea who that kid is over there. So, yeah.
Well, it's good to have you here on the podcast.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Anxious to hear from you about the BTX, which is kind of the main reason why I'm here. I wanted to talk to you guys about the BTX. I know you've had quite a bit of work with it out on the range, and that's going to be good to hear your perspective on that. And
well, I think it's at this point probably one of the most unique views with it. I don't know how many people have had the range time that he's had on it behind an actual shooting weapon, and so I'll let him tell you about it. But I would say it's probably one of the most unique experiences that anybody's had so far with the BTX. So.
Yeah, I think my dad just finished up. Don't quote me on this one because I don't know if they had the BTX with them. I'm almost positive they did. But at FTW out in Texas, they were there for I think 3 or 4 days out there, and so they probably got some really good range time behind it. But we were pretty dang lucky to get the BTX when we did, and we were able to take it out. It was just a coincidence. I was going out shooting the next day because we had a sweet new shop rifle that we needed to sight in, and we poke out to 1,300 yards at a range that we've got down south, and it was really cool to be able to sit out there for 6 or 7 hours and just sit. Behind a guy all day long and just pound rounds downrange and be able to see impacts at 1,000 yards that watching through a single eyepiece is really tiring. Grueling. It is. And you miss things. You 100% miss things. And when an impact is a little poof of dust, to the right of a steel target at 1,000 yards, you got to have your eyes open. You got to be able to catch that. And there's no one out there that can say that if they've shot for that many rounds, I don't care, you flinch sometimes when a rifle goes off. If you got a suppressor on it, that's great, but when a rifle goes off, you flinch sometimes. Sometimes you get lucky and you don't close your eyes or anything, but most of the time you do. And it's so much better than that eye relief that it has is so much more forgiving than a single eyepiece that, you can call shots all day long.
That's, one thing with the amount of time that I've spent with my BTX, it's so comfortable.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think that's over and over again. That's
even when you're just glassing deer on a ridge top, it's comfortable.
Of the hundreds of people we've shown it to now, I think the one thing, no matter what, we can all agree to disagree on all the different subjects, and everybody comes back to the one common thing. It's the easiest of any of the big eye stuff that they have ever looked through.
Yeah. It's just like looking through a pair of ELs. I mean, it's just like looking through a pair of binoculars.
I completely agree.
I'm curious on the range, which objective did you have out there? Did you have the 65, the 85, or the 95?
I had the 95 and the 65. I didn't have an 85 with me, which in hindsight is actually, in my opinion, I mean, the math-wise, it is the best performing eyepiece right now with the BTX. It has the largest exit pupil, and so I wish I would have had it. But in the grand scheme of things, now that I've seen the 95 and the 65 perform against each other, it wouldn't have made much of a difference. I mean, we're talking noon in Arizona, in May or in April. It wasn't a huge, wouldn't have made a huge difference.
The times I've had it out, it's been kind of early morning, and heat waves weren't as much of a big of a problem. What kind of situation did you have as far as heat waves?
It was pretty bad. It was pretty bad heat waves.
Perform?
Did really well. It did really well, and I think the main thing is it boils back down to the comfort, the comfortable, aspect of it, because there's nothing out there that really, there's no heat wave killer out there.
Well, I was going to say that, I think that's something that needs to be said in this, because I've had probably, 20 questions about, well, how does it do in heat waves?
Yeah.
Well, any binocular picks up heat waves.
Yeah.
And it's nothing. I think that's probably a great way of putting it.
There's nothing that makes heat waves go away.
Yeah,
I mean, besides getting out there earlier,
exactly.
Go shooting earlier if you don't want to look at heat waves. But that's the thing, is it boils back down to the comfort level of it, because heat waves get annoying. You're using both eyes,
right.
And so when heat waves get annoying in a high powered spotting scope, it's because you're getting uncomfortable and you're getting lazy.
Think it needs to be said then, when you are looking through heat waves, things can be more difficult to focus.
Mm-hmm.
It may distort your ability to focus. When you're looking through heat waves, if you're using heat waves as a wind detector or, any of the shooting aids that you could, I think it just lends itself to say that when you're looking through a good piece of, equipment, and you're using those smaller intangibles as a way to detect wind or what have you, the better the glass, the better you're going to be able to see those things. So, I kind of want to put the heat wave thing to rest. People, how do you make heat waves disappear? Well, get more space between yourself and the ground. Really, that's what it comes down to. And, that's, and we've always said that about big eyes. Get yourself up, get some elevation, and and I know that's tough. Like on antelope hunting, you always seem to be looking right across the dirt, but that's separate yourself from the ground.
Mark, do you think the BTX will have its own little niche within the competition shooters?
I believe so, and I hope they're able to see it, and I hope they get the opportunity to look behind it, because there are a lot of competition shooters that probably spend more time behind glass than we do. That's the thing is it's a huge part of it's a huge part of what they do. It's their spotting scopes are only half of what they do. Their rifle scopes are probably higher on their list of things that are more important to them, but their spotting scopes are important, and it'll be interesting to see the magnifier, because I think once the magnifier is confirmed as a really awesome piece of gear, then I think it'll start to really hit in with that type of market. Because right now, I took it to the range because it was it was awesome, it was brand new and stuff, but a 60 power would have been really nice to have. So especially trying to spot groups at 1,000 yards through heat waves, through stuff like that, 60 power would have been really nice. So with that 95 millimeter and that magnifier, I definitely that'll be part of my range pack. That I'm definitely taking that to the range.
And the magnifier is a 1.7, correct?
1.7.
And so on the 30, it's going to be 51 power. On the 95, which is 35 power, it's going to be 60 power.
Yeah,
right?
59.5, so 60. I think we're just going to call it 60.
Yep.
But yeah, it's
any word on the magnifier when it's supposed to hit?
Truthfully, any day. It literally could be any day right now. But that's it's the one of the whole system, it's I'm excited about it because everybody kind of goes back to the, well, what about the doubler? The doubler just what they thought it was going to be, and the fact of it is the doubler was never meant to replace 100% of spotting scope. No one ever claimed it was going to be, the same as equal to a 65 millimeter spotter or 80. It's just that's not what it was for. It was to truthfully give somebody double the power. And if this, we call it the puck,
the hockey puck,
if this literally performs, even close to the way that the BTX is performing, I don't know how it's just not an absolute for sure piece of gear that you got to have.
Well, I think one of the things that's cool, not only with the BTX, but the puck is going to be used for spotting scopes as well, right? You can use it between your regular 30 to 70 eyepiece.
Yeah.
And I think
that's
that makes whole other element that's
I think
pretty
there's
dang
some
cool.
digiscoping and some DSLR, photography. I think there's a lot of things that are coming that I don't know if we've ever had the opportunity to experience it like this.
Yeah, because I think I'm right on this one. It turns the 95 millimeter with an STX or ATX into 120 power spotting scope.
That's correct.
So that's pretty mind blowing. And to think what the 95 looks like at 70 power right now, it's gorgeous.
There's some bucks that we've seen at miles that I didn't even bring out just because it was like, it's just
not even mess with it.
I'm not even going to mess with it because it's not going to turn out anyway.
My biggest thing with the magnifier is how much in low light will it actually affect the quality, and that is it going to be one of those things that at first light, maybe for the first 5 minutes you're kind of limited, or is it a deal where it's 15 minutes, and if it's only 5, it could be pretty cool where you're like, I'm going to give up a little bit, maybe where I'm not even going to switch it on and off. I'm just going to leave it.
Yeah.
Right.
But within 5 or 8 minutes, you're hammering stuff.
Well, I think that's what. I think if it even if it's close to what the BTX performs, we're talking maybe a few minutes if it's dark. I don't know.
Yeah.
The videos that we've seen of it in action, from the European side of things, you kind of keep waiting for it to get dark in the video. You're like, it just keeps getting, it's as bright as the original picture.
Yeah. The one video we've seen is what looked like an afternoon type light.
Exactly.
But I think it was that license plate video you're talking about. Yeah.
Yep.
So a license plate from what looks like 300 yards.
No, it was
300, 400
couple
yards.
300 yards.
And he takes it from its lower power setting with the 95. I can't remember what that number is, all the way up, and it's a video of it zooming in. And if it was like one of our license plates here in Arizona, you could read my. My registration expires October 2018.
Yeah, it was
clear as day.
It was
clear as day.
It was pretty impressive.
A clarification question with the magnifier. We're talking just on a regular spotting scope. Is the zoom capability on a spotting scope still going to be able to? So
yes.
The BTX is fixed, but the hockey puck, so to speak, the magnifier on the spotting scope will still be able to be on 30 power on mine. 95 millimeter, 30 to 70.
Yep.
And then as you crank to 70, that's what you were talking about. It's going to go to full 120.
Well, it's with the magnifier on. It starts at a new low, and then it goes to 120, whatever 1.7 times 30 is.
Right.
Without it on, it stays at 30 to 70. So what I see people doing is the fact that it weighs probably ounces. I don't know the exact weight on it, but it's something that if you're going to be carrying,
it's 51 to
120.
Yeah.
So there's no reason you shouldn't just have it in a little pocket. Mm-hmm. And if you find a situation because if it's not usable in extreme low light, then don't put it on. But it takes a couple seconds to put on there. Yeah. It weighs ounces. There's no reason, and at a really good price point at $370, it's actually pretty reasonable.
I gotta think it's not really your market, you guys' market, but I got to think the birders.
Oh, they're going nuts over
I
this
got to
thing.
think they're going to go nuts over the BTX and the hockey puck.
Anybody that is using a spotting scope now and I mean this is just me talking right now, anybody using a spotting scope, birder or not, hunter, birder, shooting, I don't know how you can't not want to entertain the idea of owning this.
Yeah.
Simply because of the fact of it's so easy to look through.
Right.
I don't think there's been anything.
You're talking about
ever,
BTX.
Yeah, the BTX. I don't think there's been anything ever in the history of optics that has made people going to want to use a spotting scope such as this. I think it's that
Definitely.
big.
I think the whole thing of I mean, we talk to people with different optic setups all day long, and I hear it more and more of, hey, what tripod head should I use? Well, what optics are you using? Vortex razors, Leupold Mojaves, whatever they have. Or are you using a spotting scope? No, I don't have a spotting scope. Like, really? And I usually don't, get into the whole, that thing, like, oh, why didn't you use a spotting scope? But it's just interesting to hear that a lot of people aren't using spotting scopes. And I believe it has to do with, one, the weight-saving capabilities, I guess, of it. But two, those people probably don't find spotting scopes useful.
Yeah, they're not comfortable.
They're not comfortable. And mainly because
one eye.
You're using one eye. And
right.
And honestly, I mean, there is a lot of times where I don't find even the nicest spotting scopes out there extremely comfortable. You're sitting there and you're sitting there for 30 seconds and you're like, God.
Yeah, any more than about 30 seconds, you start seeing double.
And especially when especially when you're sitting there and you bet at a koozie at 1 o'clock in the afternoon.
Yeah, and your dad's like, "Do not take your eye off or they chop your balls off."
Yeah, exactly.
We've never heard that before.
Yeah, and you got to sit there for 3 hours. And he's far enough away where you might miss him with a pair of 10s or 12s. You got to stay in that spotting scope for that long.
And I think
it's
that
killer.
First of all, the guys don't want to use it because it hurts.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it over a period of time it starts to bug them, or they have a headache or whatever. And now you're giving somebody a solution to that.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I mean, we that guy that came in. He's been in 3 times in the last couple of days, and he's like, "Oh yeah, I'm really actually thinking about getting one of those." His literal word, I hate spotting scopes.
Yeah.
We showed him what was going on and how the BTX, and he's been in 3 times just looking at it going, man, I think I need one because I would use this because I've never wanted one because every time I look through them I get a headache.
What I hear you guys saying is there's going to be a whole group of people that have never used spotting scopes that are all of a sudden going to be feeling comfortable using the spotting scopes.
Entertaining the idea.
The idea of...
Yeah. I mean, there's still that barrier of, yes, it is a high-end optic. It is in that high-end price range. So obviously not every person out there that was holding out is going to be able to just be like, yeah, I'll take a BTX. But it will start the conversation of why is this not the norm? And especially with the weight that it came in at.
Yeah.
It's not obnoxious.
Even if you went at the least expensive option.
Yeah.
In the 65 and the BTX.
That's a little gem at 4.14 pounds.
You're basically at
37,
I was going to say $3,800.
Yeah, 37, 38.
So even at that price range, you've never had the opportunity to you're not losing anything, you're gaining.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I think any Western hunter that's truly serious about antelope, deer, sheep, coos deer, mule deer, what we like to chase, elk. To not have one, I think you're going to be missing out. And I've been saying that about big optics, Koas, Doctors, Big Eyes. Like, it's huge.
Yeah, it's the same. It's the same thing for people saying like, "Oh, I never own a pair of Big Eyes" because some of them didn't find them comfortable.
The number one deterrent was not the price of Koas.
Yeah,
was not the price.
Pounds.
It was always weight.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Always weight.
Right. And size. Weight and size. They most of the time they go hand in hand, but even if
I would say weight's the single most biggest factor.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know if either one of you have done this, but I know you probably have. But I'm so used to using the Koas that when I'm reaching, like when I'm putting my hands out to move stuff, I keep like trying to, like, my hands keep going to about where the colors are. Yeah. And I keep reaching out there, and there's only one tube, and I'm like, you got to be kidding me.
I keep trying to focus each eyepiece.
Well, that's the thing is I keep getting, it's just,
that's the thing with the koas. There was always, you always have to tinker so much depending on your depth and how far out you're looking. If, when you bounce from, the far ridge and then bounced up and you were just, maybe you saw a deer on the close ridge, you were always having to refocus, I thought, with both eyes. Whereas this, I didn't notice that the other day when we were out glassing. We were specifically looking at those deer, and then we were looking at the close ridge at those other deer, and it was like I didn't even have to touch anything.
Well, no, we didn't. I mean,
it has a great depth of field, for sure.
You might have had to readjust. I mean, just to slightly, but I mean. Like with the koas a lot, you're fidgeting a lot. And
in other words, with the koas, you could be looking way out there and you see something in the bottom of your field of view. Yep. You would literally have to move it to adjust it to even see what kind of coos buck it was. Exactly. And I felt like this BTX, like you wouldn't even have to touch anything and you could say that's a 105-inch buck. Okay, let me get a little more precise. Right. But I feel like with the koas, you would just see kind of blur and you'd have to refocus.
Yeah, exactly. The finite adjustment is much easier with it, especially it being a single focus wheel. Yeah. I mean, first off, that's huge. Because with the koas, I always felt like I was always a little off. It was never perfect, right. And then the eye cups, come into play, where all of a sudden you have extremely comfortable eye cups to use that work exactly like a pair of binoculars instead of those massive eye cups, or the rim around those eye cups on the koas was just insanely large. Exactly. I never understood that, but.
Cody, when I left you and Jake the other day, you guys were right in the middle of starting to do your field of view test.
Yep.
And I've got in front of me the results from that field of view test. And what I think is important about that, and I mentioned it a little bit on the last podcast, obviously every manufacturer is going to list weight. They're going to list field of view. They're going to list exit pupil. They're going to list a bunch of things. I did find it interesting that it seemed like the claimed field of view was not, when you really tested it on all the manufacturers across the board, was not the same.
In the way we've talked about this is it to me, it's, look, again, we can all look at certain pieces of gear and go, you know what, I like to use those because this. Some people use the Doctors because they're straight. Some people use the I mean, it doesn't matter. There's a number of reasons to use any one of those pieces of gear. But there is one single fact that was pretty evident against all this, is edge-to-edge clarity on the BTX and the 95 blew away everything in this test. And you literally have to make and understand that there is edge-to-edge clarity, and that's usable glass. So if you have 10% of the outside edge that they're considering as a part of their field of view, but it's blurry, and you gotta literally to kind of really
angle your eyes.
You gotta angle your eyes to kind of look into the sides. That's not usable. That's not. I can't use that as a comparison. I can't. Yeah. There were in this field, the BTX was hands down best. Now, we set out to basically debunk, if you will, like, what are the claims actually? What are they? Well, when we did that, we used basically a stationary truck, the front bumper of my truck, and then I literally walked the distances off, and Jake, basically got behind the binos, and when he was set up and ready, I would literally walk until I was out of his screen, and then.
So in other words, the left side of his binos was on the front part of the bumper, so that was a constant.
Yeah, well, yeah. In this case, the right side of his was the constant,
and then you were on the left field
and he would line it up to where it was usable, edge to edge field of view, and then I would walk, away from the truck, and when I would get to where there was a a discernible, okay, Cody, you're out of the screen, come back a step. Okay, I can fully see you and fully understand, like I can read the print on your shirt. Well, that's what we used as the test, and the numbers are the numbers, and we can talk about those, but the fact of it is that the BTX was as the Koas were as close to the claimed distance as any of them, and the Koas were pretty good. They were consistent and they were good. The ones that we don't truly know about were the twins. We were using your twins, because the only thing that we can use to measure those twins is basically what the tech specs are that come off Swarovski's website. There's no.
But I was curious how you factored that too. Were you just taking the single eyepiece, one field of view?
No. Well, yeah. When we got the specs on them, because there is no tech spec for two of them mounted together.
You had 126 feet as the claim for the twins.
Correct. And just remember that 26 feet, that 126 is at 25 power.
Right.
The Koas were at 40. The 32. Koas were at 32. The Doctors were at 40. And you just have to realize. I suppose I should talk about this too. I went after we did this test. There was, I went over to Bob Griego's house, and we were looking at a piece of the mountain, and I can't even begin to tell you. We were looking. We took a sign on one side of the mountain, and we took a saguaro cactus on the other. And we were using 40 by 80s, and we were using the 95 BTX at the time. I can't even begin to explain to you how distorted at basically, 2 miles, how distorted the saguaro cactus was in the field of view. In the BTX, I had no problems recognizing that there was a normal, trunk, and then it had arms that came off. I literally had to stare through it and look into the angle on, the Doctors. And guys, I'm not banging on the Doctors, because at 2 miles and plus, those Doctors are pretty awesome.
Well, but you're saying you're not banging on it. It is what it is.
It just is
for
what
your eyes, that's what you're reporting.
Right.
You can only report what your eyes see. Mark, you can only report how your eyes perform.
Yeah.
Everybody performs a little different. But what you're saying is at 2 miles, the clarity, the amount of resolution.
The distortion at the outer edge.
On
so
the
when
Doctors.
They claim that they're 40, or the Doctor 40 by 80s are 126 at 40 power at 1,000 yards, 126 feet. I'm sorry, it's not. You got to take a percentage of that and get rid of it. And our number was
87.
Was 87.
And just to be clear, for you listeners out there is a chart that's on the Outdoorsmans website that you can go and you can actually see the numbers. And the Doctor 40 by 80s were claimed at 126 feet. The actual measured was 87.
87 feet.
The Koa Highlanders was claimed at 116. It was actually 108. Now keep in mind, that's 40 power at 87 feet for the Doctors. That's 32 power at 108 feet, so 8 power less. Right. Then you go to the BTX 95, which is at 35 power, claimed at 96. You guys measured it at 87. That's at 35 power. The BTX 85, 30 by 85, was 112, measured at 102. The 65, 30 by 65 BTX, that's claimed at 112. It was actually 102. The twins, my twins, were 25 by 50, but it was on 25 power, correct?
25 power.
By 65 millimeter, claimed 126, actually measured at 117.
That's correct.
Which I thought was an interesting number, which I'll come back to. And then the STX, just the regular spotting scope, the 30 to 70 eyepiece, was 104, actually measured at 90. Going back to the twins, one thing I thought was interesting, I've always been impressed with the field of view, but you also have to remember it's 25 power. So it's not really a fair fight because with the 95 BTX, it's 10 more power at 35.
That's correct.
And the 65, it's 5 more power.
Yep.
Yeah.
But one of the reasons why I really like the Twins is that it is at 25 power, and you seem to have, from what you feel, a pretty wide field of view. And I'll also say that you probably had the eye cups off, which I don't have eye cups. Yeah. So that's the Twins with the eye cups pulled off at 117 feet.
Yep. Yeah. Again, it's just we've been talking about it, and we just really wanted to put numbers to it, an actual field test. Because if we can talk the numbers all day long, but if it doesn't compute in the field, that's what matters.
Yeah.
So, but again, the Swarovski claimed versus what it actually was pretty darn good.
Yeah, looking at this chart, the margin of error was smaller with that.
Yep.
I think.
Yeah, and I don't remember what the COAs were.
116 to 108.
108.
So that was pretty close, too.
That was pretty close, too.
So you feel like maybe when they did their test, they were given a little bit more on that edge of what you're saying, focused clarity, that maybe they were fudging, all the manufacturers were fudging just a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's...
And it depends on conditions, too. I mean, maybe they had just absolute perfect
exactly.
light. Or
great morning light. And measuring, I have absolutely no claim to know how they measure field of view. It's probably at a very staked out, perfectly flat, at basically like think about the nicest rifle range you can think of at 1,000 yards. You have a perfectly flat berm. You can sit there and, spray paint markers.
Exactly.
And it's probably very much more scientific than
Cody out there.
Yeah.
Back up a foot.
Yeah, and it was.
But that was at 1,000 yards.
We had a lot of fun with it.
Yeah.
But, no, I can't see you anymore, Cody. Take a step forward. Nope, still can't see you. And I'm losing weight, but I'm still a pretty easy object in the binocular field of view. Holy cow!
If there's, you got to think about it. If there was a slant to where he was walking, that'll throw it off.
Yeah,
but
it was 1,000 yards, right?
It was exactly 1,000 yards, and it just worked out that where we stopped and we set up the binos, and we were actually able to get on a road that was down below us, and we picked out the best, most fair part of the road that we could that made this as real as possible.
Mm-hmm.
Guys, what questions are you getting from people coming into the shop that are looking through the BTX, or what questions are you getting from people that are calling on the phone? What are the biggest questions that you're getting, or concerns, or?
Well, we all answer the phone, for different times, different reasons, whatever. But for me, the biggest one is like, well, I just wanted to see. I just want to hear from you guys, or I just wanted to come down and see for myself, because you're splitting the light. It's like they just couldn't believe it could be that good. I think that's the number one that I've.
Yeah, it's a lot. It's a lot of technical questions. It's a lot of how much do they weigh? What's the breakdown? How does it work? Stuff like that. But I think it's a pretty simple setup. It's used exactly like the original eyepieces, exactly like the ATS XTX eyepieces right now. And so, once you kind of explain it to people, they're like, "Oh, okay. Is it all that it's cracked up to be?" And we're like, pretty much it is.
Better.
And and they're like, "Okay, sounds good." And if they order, they order. If they don't, they're just thinking about it. And the guys that come in to see it, they're like, "I just wanted to come check it out." And
what's the response for the people that actually come in and look at it? What's the overwhelming? If you had to say, what was the response?
I have literally not heard a person say, "Oh, I expected more." Every single person, and that's I'm not buttering that up whatsoever. Yeah. Every single person that's come in has said, "Wow, that's that's pretty cool." Not there's nobody doing cartwheels in the front room, saying it's changed our lives, but every person that's looked at it says, "Oh, okay."
I'll be real interested to see after guys use it at deer season and elk season, antelope this fall.
Right.
after guys actually use it. I'll bet you there are going to be some guys doing cartwheels.
I think so. And once people get it out in the field, and once people start to see their friends with one, and start to really use their buddies and stuff like that, because I mean, right now there's, our credibility, as much as we think it's not enough for most people. It's not enough to hear from another person that, yeah, you may, respect them as an outdoorsman, but you still want to hear from, your buddy Joe that it's, that it's
word of mouth is huge.
Yeah, that it's the best thing ever. You trust your friends.
But
I
think all of us even, there's not very many of them out in the United States.
Exactly.
Like, I've had mine out several times, but I really haven't. I mean, we glassed up a bunch of deer that morning.
That was about as real as it gets.
That's as real as it gets, and it was great. But I'm also at the point where it's like I'm not one of these guys that can just jump into something and be like, best ever. I need to use it a little bit. And
definitely,
I've been pretty blown away with what I've seen.
And I think you two are missing a point here, because I'm going to tell you.
Here we go.
Yeah, right.
That the first time a guy lugs it up the mountain, and he has to give it back to his buddy, and then he's got to carry the koas up the mountain the next time.
It's a no-brainer.
He's literally going to go, because I'm just telling you, I think that this is the one product that are going to bring more people into the
long-range glassing.
The long-range glassing than and I'll say that, yes, the 15s did that to an extent. But this is the one that's going to make people look way farther.
Cody, you bring up a huge point, because that's something that I'm kind of failed to talk about here. You make a great point, Jay. Walk a half a mile up and look through the BTX for a half hour. Walk back down here and put in your pack the koas and the giant tripod.
Yep.
Go back up, and you tell me which one you like. Well, the 95 millimeter objective with 35 power BTX is at 6.2 pounds. The koas are at 14. You're saving 8 pounds right there.
And that's just the optics.
That's just the optics.
And then the tripod, you're saving another at least 7 or 8 pounds, maybe even 10.
You can't, because you can use it on our tripods.
Yeah,
you can use it on lighter tripods.
Right. You can use it on the Outdoorsman's tripod,
100%.
Which, when you compare that to the big giant Bogan,
oh gosh,
it could be we should weigh it. It could be 11 pounds.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right.
With the 502, with the 502 on it, yes, it could definitely get that heavy.
I think when people, I liken it to this, because the first time I ever did it, I was like, God, where did all the weight go? When you put a set of EL 1032s and you put our stud in and put them on a tripod,
unbeatable.
And you take like literally a 65 power STS 65 power spotting scope, and you take everything else out of your pack, and you run up into some canyon because you know that there's a buck living there, that all you're going to do is try to find that buck on that given day, and you pack your pack, and you're normally carrying about a 28 to 30 pound, depending on water and everything, and all of a sudden your pack weighs like 18 or 19 pounds for the day. I don't care who you are. You're like, God, where are all the weight?
Well, that's when I switched to these twin spotters right here from the koas. So I went from, those are 7 7.5 pounds plus my small tripod.
Right.
Whereas I was taking the koas and the big tripod. That's what was a game changer about these twins for me. And then you take the BTX. When you compare apples to apples with those, 65 millimeter. When you go to the 65 millimeter BTX, I'm saving 3 more pounds carrying the BTX.
Well, and that's the thing is it, and we all agreed on this, or have agreed, by looking through the 65 in the BTX. There's going to be times when you throw that in your pack, and Jay, you've just cut 3 pounds off your twins.
I know, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah. You just cut
the
3
65
pounds
is
there.
It's 100% usable.
Yeah.
I mean, at this point, there is no. I mean, we've talked about it. There's not a huge discernible difference between the 95 and the 65 with the BTX.
Okay, I think when you get long distance, there's a
difference.
When we looked at those bucks.
So Mark, you weren't there, but
I wasn't
there was a group of 4 bucks that were up on this kind of little triangular little bowl thing.
Yeah.
And I found them, I think it was in the 85. I was looking through the 85, and I found them. I'm like, God, that buck's nice, and this one's big. And I was looking. I'm like, okay, well, here's the test. Throw the 95 on there. And they were at, I think I went back and checked the distance on the maps. That they were roughly at about 1.75 miles, 1.75. And the minute that we put the 95 on there,
when you found them in the 85, I was in my 65 BTX,
right.
And I could see that they were bucks. And then you're like, switch to the 95.
Well, yeah, because we switched both of them to 95 real quick, and it was like, ooh, boy.
Really?
I mean, it was a discernible, ooh, that was nice.
Because that buck lifted his head at that one time, and you're like, ooh.
Oh, yeah, that was good.
Yeah. And it's going to be, that's a great, that's a great test to it.
But this is the thing, though. So you take that 95 and how good that felt, and if you're telling me that I can throw the puck on the 65, extender, and I could zoom those particular bucks in, and my, the diminishing anything light gathering that we're all questioning until we have the puck in our hands, are you kidding me?
Yeah,
that's a done deal.
Yeah, I think that's where we're really going to see the huge differences between the 95 and the 65, and the 3 different eyepieces is when the extender comes, and when we start to see that. Because right now, like when the day we had all 4 or 5 of those optics out there,
out in the back,
we were looking up at that mountain, the 65 and the 95, those rocks, at 1,500 yards.
Wasn't a huge.
Those rocks look, pretty much the same.
Exactly.
But like the long distance stuff. But once you get that extender on there and you get to 51 power and 60 power, I think that extra, real estate on the objective lens with the 95 is really going to help out.
Yeah,
your exit pupil is going to take less of a hit when it comes to that 95 instead of the 65 millimeter.
I can't agree with you more.
Yeah, I'm super excited to see it, and can't say anything about it because it's none of us have even looked at one.
Though.
Yeah, none of us have even had one in our hands, so we have absolutely no idea.
I can tell you right now with the 95 and the 65, I don't have the 85, but with the 65 and the 95, for me, I can see carrying my 10 ELs on my chest with my Outdoorsmans Bino adapter.
Mm-hmm.
I can see myself glassing close range stuff, and then I can see myself going on Cooster hunts and sheep hunts where I'm really hiking and doing a lot of stuff, taking that 65 and just being perfectly content.
Yeah,
absolutely.
And then you throw in whatever it's going to come in weight wise, the magnifier, and it's like I don't know that you're going to need much more than that for most hunts. Now, granted, if a buck's out there at 2.5 miles with the 95, I'm going to be able to tell a little bit better what that buck is. But from a weight standpoint and being able to save 2.5 pounds.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's
when you need to kill
difference.
that buck, that 2.5 pounds at 2.5 miles is going to be pretty nice.
Helps,
yeah,
man.
exactly.
You've been there.
So,
and that, when the buck we'd been looking at deer on that face, but the one that was at 2.85 miles or whatever it was, when I saw that, you're looking through it and you're really fine tuning your focus, and you're adjusting it, just making sure you got everything perfect, and you're making sure that the tripod is as still as it can be, and you're thinking to yourself, okay, that looks like a really good buck right there. I mean, he's got everything that you think you could see from that distance, and in the back of my mind, I'm like, please don't turn your head and be up against a a red manzanita bush or whatever it is, and when he turned his head, it was like, it was just to see the deer move and turn. And
that's the 2 eyes talking there.
No, that's absolutely that. I mean, that is your mind. And people, maybe I don't know if we talked about it, but your eyes see in stereo vision, and so when you're splitting the image through the one spotter into 2 eyes. It's basically like your eyes see now. Your eyes see 2 images, and your brain basically fuses them together. Mm-hmm. Well, I don't know. It works. I mean, it was impressive to go through that whole process and see it and do it. And I'm just really excited about this puck too.
Yeah,
about the extender.
I think it's going to be awesome. I mean, it's just you think about it. I mean, we thought. Before we saw the BTX, like, let's not put the cart before the horse. We haven't seen it yet. Yeah, this is going to be really cool, but we have no idea how it's going to perform. And in hindsight, I mean, it's EL glass. It's field flattening Swarovski glass with 2 eyes.
Yep.
So I had just bought 30 the power. Stinking
I know. It's like basically you're taking if Swarovski tomorrow with if you go back 6 months and Swarovski never released the BTX and they said, hey, we're releasing a 30 power EL binocular, we'd all be like, hell yeah. That's going to be amazing.
Right.
And no one would even question the fact that it was going to be amazing. It's exactly what they've done. It's there's scientific differences that I will never understand when it comes to splitting that beam, but I don't care because when you go look at it outside, it looks exactly the same. It looks amazing.
I think one thing that people are talking about is, they're asking me, well, how does it compare to the 15s? And I'm like, wait a minute here. Let's just. This is a long range. This is big eyes. This is big optics. This is compared to Kowas, Doctors, the twin Swarovskis. We're not talking 15s. That's a whole nother level.
It's a whole nother level.
And I love the Swarovski 15s. They're one of my favorite pieces of gear. But when I'm talking long range glassing, I'm talking 25 power or more.
Yes.
Well, and in a weight class,
spotting scope type,
and also
powers.
And I'm going to say this. I kind of like to put 1,500 yards and beyond.
Right.
I mean,
distance.
Distance.
Good distance. I mean, good distance. Start, where you get to the point where even a 12 power or 15 power binocular, you're really not going to be, start to be able to pick out eye guards and stuff like that. Those types of distances, 1,300, 1,500, out to 2,000, 2,500, that type of areas where. Even with, the highest end 12, 15 power, even I guess you could throw in 20 power binoculars out there, you're really not going to be able to pick apart tiny, tiny differences. Because, I mean, even like you're saying with that 95 at that distance, light and all that stuff has to do with the clarity and how fine you can get that image.
Right. Well, there's a give and take with everything.
Exactly. And if you're talking trying to see coos deer or mule deer at that distance, and you're talking trying to differentiate between inches and when you're talking diameters and stuff like that of antlers, that's minuscule items at 2,000 yards.
Yeah.
I mean, minuscule things you're trying to pick apart. So small differences go a long way.
Yeah.
And
any final thoughts from you, Cody, on the BTX?
I got to be honest with you. I've had it in the field now twice and on game animals, and I just can't see how it's not going to be in my pack.
Yeah, me too. Mark?
No, yeah, it will be a definitive part of my pack this year. I have no idea in which configuration yet.
Yeah,
but it'll be in the pack.
And I think that really needs to be talked about, and we can certainly break that down on another podcast because there truly is. I mean, we're already hearing guys talk about what their system is going to be, and boy, does it get really personal. I mean, it really gets personal with guys about, well, I think I'm going to carry the 8s, and I'm going to do that,
But it's already personal. Everybody's got their own system anyway.
That's what I'm saying is it, but this is really throwing a wrench into some people's program because they're like, well, I've got to be, well, do I leave something at home or do I bring... And I just think it's going to give people more use-specific gear to use for a specific job on a given day.
Yeah.
I think from a weight standpoint alone, they separate themselves from the field. And people that love the optical quality of Kowas, people that love the optical quality of the Doctors, okay. Even if you're sitting and looking through them and you don't stipulate that the Swarovski's better, even though I think the three of us would say we think it's better, we've looked through all of them. From a weight standpoint, it's like not even a conversation.
No,
it's
like
okay, let's say it's equivalent.
Well,
let's say that it's equivalent. Okay, now let's weigh them. You walk up the mountain with each of the three. What are you going to carry? It's like a no-brainer.
Well, that's the thing. That's where the opinion portion of it breaks down, because you can listen to people talk about it all day long, and you can hate the BTX optically, but it's
when
6
you're saving,
pounds.
yeah,
You know,
yeah,
that's where the science
that's the
comes
thing
in.
is that there are places like I can think in my head right now where I love to go hike for the day or morning in glass and get up before first light and be in my spot, and I'm thinking to myself, this is going to be so much nicer.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I mean, I'm all for training and all for putting in the work, but
You can pack that much more food, that much more water, another jacket,
whatever,
another layering piece,
Yeah.
whatever.
I mean, you could bring a small child with you at that point.
Like I hate picking apart ounces. Like I absolutely hate it. The
older you get,
the guy. I know, but still,
you're still in your 20s.
Yeah, I have blinders on right now, but still, it's like the guys that cutting their toothpaste. Their toothbrushes in half. I'm just like, oh god, But we're not talking ounces. You're talking
pounds.
Literally having a piece of gear that you've got that weighs 14 pounds. And obviously, there's the guys that like, oh, I wasn't carrying codes up the mountain anyways. So now I'm talking about adding weight. But
what you get.
how much, though?
Yeah.
I mean, how much weight are you actually adding between the two eyepieces, the ATX and STX? You're not adding that much. You're losing, ridiculous amounts of weight from its competitors, and you're really not gaining that much weight by adding those two eyepieces.
And I think the bonus over just guys that are, I'm just a spotting scope guy, you got two eyes.
Yeah.
That from a comfort standpoint, you've got both eyes working. You can glass twice as long with two eyes.
Oh,
I mean,
yeah.
it's nobody can even argue that.
And again, there is something absolutely 100% that when you are using both eyes as opposed to one, and all the muscular things that happen in your face when you're glassing with a spotting scope as opposed to the BTX with both eyes open, I just don't know how you could even argue the other way.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, I would figure out a way to carry a BTX in a 65 as opposed to, say, an STS 65.
Sure.
Yeah.
I mean, and by the way, that STS 65 and a little pair of 10s or whatever on a tripod, that's one of my favorite go-to combinations.
Killer. Yeah, no, it's killer. Those 1032s and 832s are killer pieces of glass. And that STS was, is awesome. And the weight saving capabilities of that setup right there is amazing, but you still got, it just comes back to that point of you're still using one eye with a spotting scope. And that you can't, I'll trade weight all day long. All day long to use that. And it's nice when you're always hunting with somebody else, so you can always have that spotting scope in their pack and you can have the BTX in yours. That's nice, and so you always have options.
I think about somebody that's hiked up into a high basin and they're studying a deer or whatever, a buck, or they're really trying to get a good score on whatever whatever his thing is. If you think you got detail on a 65 power, I'm sorry, on a 25 or 50 power STX or STS with one eye, and you could virtually have a 30 power with a puck with both eyes.
Yeah.
Imagine your ability to score a deer or understand or see the cheaters or all the little stuff. It's exponentially better.
Yeah. Guys, it's been awesome talking about the BTX. Let's talk about this plate carrier.
Yeah.
But before I say that, I think I saw a video on your Instagram, the Outdoorsman's Instagram or Facebook, and I want to say you were carrying Junior in there.
Yes, we were.
So that was field testing for the plate carrier, and you were carrying Junior around.
Yep. No, we were. That was. I think it was. There was that. The funny thing is, did we post that? I think we did actually.
Yeah, I saw it somewhere.
Of me on. Yeah.
Well,
no,
actually,
I did. I think I posted it.
And Cole posted it.
And Cole
too.
posted it. Yeah. Well,
maybe I should.
We were product testing
a little bit of the
it was product
history
testing.
of this.
Looked a little goofy.
Yeah. Well,
we've had a lot of
we're
questions over the years about the hole in the center of our backpack frame. And it should basically be said that Floyd, who, he's always thinking and always doing something and thinking ahead, and him and the gentleman that built our frames from the beginning, they always thought it would be cool to have some way to carry an Olympic plate of 45 or 35 or 25 pounds or whatever. We had prototypes that were made
We'll call them
7 years ago.
We'll call them prototypes.
Yeah, I mean,
we'll call them prototypes.
I remember the one that you were actually hooking Koa Pelican cases to.
Oh, yeah.
We've still got that thing out there.
We've still got that, too.
I actually just ran across that the other day.
And that has its applications, but I'm going to say this, that when I first got here, we have a jerry can carrier. We have a pack that will do nothing but haul water if that's what you want it to do. We have packs in this plate carrier system, though. When we would talk to people about it years ago, this was before the fitness craze in hunting. So I really want to say that, Floyd did this years ago, and it was really, quite frankly, way ahead of its time. And I know that there's been people that have done things before then, but, that hole in the center of our pack has always been made to hold basically a stud that's the same size as an Olympic weight bar. And I think now that, since Mark and Jake, Mark has been driving this boat for the last couple months now, and he's done an awesome job with it, and how it's taken life, we have gotten nothing but positiveness out of this deal.
Just to let the listeners know what these guys are talking about, on the Outdoorsmans pack frame, which is a polycarbonate. Okay, they have made it where you can actually carry weight, just like 25, 35, 45, whatever pounds, correct?
Right.
Yep.
And for training.
Yep.
So you can simulate weight in your pack without using sandbags or whatever, guys, water or whatever, and strap it on, and you can literally put plates on, add plates, take plates off, what have you.
Yeah, I mean,
what have you tested? What's the height?
45 right now. This weekend's an 80-pound test, so that'll be fun. But right now, I mean, we did the drop test, which we did post on our Instagram. If you want to check that out, we took a 45-pound plate, strapped it to the frame with the new adapter, and took it to past shoulder height. I just basically held it up over my head and dropped it from 6 feet probably, and let it go. And I find myself worrying about how it's going to perform this weekend with 80 pounds. But considering I just put the centrifugal force of 200 pounds onto it right there,
or way more,
I have no idea what that math comes out to, and it was perfectly fine.
Didn't break at all.
It didn't break at all.
Didn't crack.
No. I mean, and we did it 6 times. We did it 2 times on each what we thought would be a weak point, and obviously, that's obviously not its breaking point. We have no idea how long it would take to actually break at that point.
Well, but it should be said at this point that anybody that owns an Outdoorsman's pack in our frame will be able to add this piece of gear to their frame system for training.
Yeah.
All they need is our bracket to go on there.
Yeah, the shoulder harness has to come off and to make it easier to put it on. And there's just 2 plates to sandwich, and then a stud or a rod that inserts in. So, I mean, in the grand scheme of things, it weighs about 3 pounds. The little setup. If you take the rod off, you're at about 1.5 pounds. So technically, if you need to run up for a quick day trip, quick glassing trip,
wouldn't even take it off.
You wouldn't even have to take it off. You could just unscrew that rod portion and take off. Yeah, you're going to have an extra 1.5 pounds on your pack, but if you're only running up a hill really quick to go glass, you don't have to worry about it. So, if you're going on a week-long elk hunt, yeah, take it off. But other than that, it's a really simple, easy to use, easy to install, and there will be video once it actually gets released, and because it is still technically prototype right now.
So then the next question is: are we going to see shirtless selfies and hashtags on Instagram?
Of course,
plate carrier are us or whatever.
100%. Yep. No, we are going to turn into. We have a couple Abercrombie models that are going to be, heading our social media division from now on, but no, we're piggybacking off of this, this new craze of
fad
of being in shape to hunt, and it should. I don't think it should be called a fad, because fads are annoying, in my opinion. Fads are the things that you're like, oh, that'll wash out in a couple of years, and I really hope this one doesn't, because this is something that's actually doing good for the industry, and it's starting to change the face of hunting a little bit. You can kind of see it. You can kind of see the normal everyday hunter is not. That is not what it used to be, and I think that's a good thing.
I see what you're saying. My only gripe with the whole, I'll still call it a fad. I'm 44. I have the right to call it a fad.
You can.
For me, I think there's a lot of people that are in shape and they're young, but that doesn't mean they're a good hunter.
Oh, definitely not.
And I think there's a lot of stuff going on social media, and I'm just old. I'm 40. I'm getting old. I would argue I'm in better shape than I was in my 20s, though. But I feel like, there's this whole conglomerate out there that, they're posting shirtless selfies and shooting their bow without their shirt on, showing their muscles. Well, I'm like, yeah, when you're in your 20s, that's pretty easy to do. There's not a lot of guys over 40 doing that.
Yeah, no, it's
and
I 100% agree with everything you're saying,
that,
by the way.
I think that there's a lot of stuff that needs to be worked on, as well as building muscles and
definitely,
showing off your tan and what have you.
And that's the thing, is this plate carrier system that we're doing is a 100% practical product.
Absolutely.
It's not. We're not.
It's not some gimmick.
Yeah. It's not a Smith
gimmick.
machine. We're not gonna build. It's not a Smith machine that you go do massive squats on, and that's all of a sudden you're not practical.
It's literally to put weight on your back and go up and down the mountain and sweat your brains out.
This brings up a really good, look, I'm all for the CrossFit or the True Hit Fitness and that kind of stuff. I'm all for all of it. But the easiest and best way for you to strengthen yourself or your body or your muscles for a specific job is for you to go do that specific job.
Absolutely. Yep. No, 100%.
So, again, I'm not saying anything about the gym rats and all the other stuff. I think it's awesome.
Yes.
Okay? I battle that every day of my life, and I'm getting in better shape, and I was an athlete once upon a time, and bottom line is that there is a place for that.
Sure.
But if I'm going to train for an elk hunt coming up this fall, and so that I'm not sucking wind when I go to put an elk cord on my back, there's only one way to train for that.
Yeah.
Yep.
Because you can do all the stuff that you want to do in the gym, but that doesn't. That's a whole different ballgame.
Doesn't simulate the real thing.
When your feet are at different angles and you're constantly stepping on, there is so many more muscles involved with that the only way to truly get out and go do it is to put that weight on your back and go hit the trails.
Yeah.
Or, you know what, and for that matter, don't hit the trails. Kind of
go off the trail.
Cut your own trail.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
I think this is going to be a huge hit, and I see it being very practical, and obviously I'm just biased a little bit on what's going on, but I see it being a very practical tool for someone that's trying to build strength.
Yeah.
For carrying weight.
Definitely.
I mean, it's
that's
a perfect opportunity to be able to use different varying amounts of weight and carry it in a center spot that's not sloshing around.
Mm-hmm. That's the thing.
Carry 80, 90 pounds potentially. You're going to test it.
Yeah.
To see if
definitely, it will hold it. I mean, there's no doubt about it. It will hold it.
So what I've already seen out of this, Mark, it just dawned on me. Jay, you're getting ready to leave for Colorado here in about month and a half.
Am I going to be the field model?
Oh, I got some prototypes out there for you.
I think that you're going to be testing one of these.
Yeah, I think you might have to.
I will guarantee you that the pictures you'll see, I'll have my shirt on.
Well, I can point you. There's a used sports store about 3 miles down the road that sells 45-pound plates. So that we just bought that one at.
Perfect.
But no, it's and that's the thing is all the workout fads and stuff aside, that the reason this was produced is. It's a better way to do it. Sure. It's a better way to carry the weight.
Yeah.
It's cleaner. It's easier.
Yeah.
And I've got a 65-pound sandbag at home, and that's what I used to use, just walking around. And luckily, I can walk straight from my house, and I can do 500 feet up, 500 feet down from my front porch. Luckily, I live in a hilly area. But for most people, they don't. They have to go drive somewhere. They have to, and for the people that I've seen using sandbags and packs and stuff like that, their training packs get beat to hell with those things, and they get beat up. And all of a sudden, you get done with your 6-mile hike, and that sandbag is about half the size it was when you started.
Leaked out.
It's completely shifted. Yeah, they break leaks. Dry bags are kind of expensive,
And
nice
this is
dry
nice
bags.
because it fits on the frame. You take the bag completely off. It's
100%
just
existing.
the frame.
You don't have to. Your bag can stay folded up in your closet. You don't have to put any extra tear on the bag, extra wear and tear.
And we've had a number of people that already have our stuff. They're like, no, I'm going to buy they want a separate frame, harness, and belt.
Just for that.
Specifically for that.
And to reiterate, you don't need to do that.
That's probably how I would do it, just to have a total separate setup so I don't even have to mess with it.
And, and for most people, this is definitely not going to be the cheapest way to hike, a weight around. That's for sure. I mean, it's going to be the same, price as our backpack frame and stuff like that. That cost gets added into it. But when you think about, if you were already thinking about buying an Outdoorsman's pack and you're looking to get in better shape and you're looking to do some training, it's kind of a no-brainer. It's kind of a no-brainer.
Well, it's going to last a long time. It's not like you're going to buy that other, sandbags. You're going to rip your bag. You're buying this. Yeah. Even if if you're serious about it, you're going to use it. You're going to use it for a year's time, 2 years time, 5 years time. I mean, this is not something like, this is one of those things that you might be able to improve it over time as you guys use it, but it's kind of one of those things that it's going to be what it's going to be for sheer building strength.
Well, and it needs to be said that we've had questions about our frames, and our frames are guaranteed for life.
For life, yeah. I mean,
and
you can do anything to them if you want.
We've still to this day, aren't we still at 7 or 8?
I think we're at 7.
7 or 8.
I don't know. We cut one open the other day. We can count that one as 8. So,
yeah, I mean,
you're talking 7 or 8 that have broken
mm-hmm.
out of thousands.
Yeah.
So
I've been here for 7 years now, and I've literally only replaced. I think we're at 7 or 8 frames.
Yeah. So if down the road, if someone's listening to this and they have a plate carrier system with one of our packs and they somehow break their frame, please.
Like, you want a picture of them,
I
want to put on the wall to be like, here's number 8.
Yeah, we always ask people to say, if somebody's done something like that, we're like, hey, send us the frame. We want to know.
We have all the frames. Yeah, we have all the broken frames.
Exactly.
I mean, it's and they're all, we know exactly what happened. And that's the thing, is they just don't break.
Yeah.
We've got the lifetime warranty, not because they break, but because they don't. It's the it's the extra satisfaction.
If you literally watch, I mean, we were complete. No, I don't want to call us idiots, but we were having fun out there.
Yeah, we were.
But if you literally go watch the Instagram videos and watch it in slow motion, what it does, and the weight when it hits the ground,
how it just blip, 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 blip.
Look, it was impressive.
Yeah.
And then we did it again.
Bends in every
and then
we
did it
way,
again.
doesn't it?
Oh yeah, no.
And then we did it. I'm like, hey, no, drop it on its corner. I mean, we were like, do it from this angle, and we couldn't get it to break.
Yeah. We're gonna do 90 pounds tomorrow, and if you don't see a Instagram video about that one, just we found the limit. So
exactly.
On that one, we may post it anyways and say like, hey, we're not even mad to admit that it broke at this point, because 90 pounds dropped from 5.5, 6 feet is.
It's a lot of weight.
That's a lot of weight, and that's about the limit of something that's going to happen. Basically, you have an elk hind, and you drop it from the bed of your truck off your back. If there's 6'7", they drop it from your back. That's the limit.
That's
that's basically what we're simulating.
Yeah.
I mean, technically, that's not what we're simulating, because we're taking it even a step further, and that weight with the plate carrier is focused onto about a 5x6 plate.
Yeah.
So it's even more intense, and I have all the faith in the world that it's going to go extremely well. But like I said, even if we do have a break at that point, I'm not going to call that a loss whatsoever. That still outperforms most pack frames out there. And if you're talking aluminum, don't even bring that up.
Well, the
aluminum frame would absolutely get
we've
annihilated.
already seen that.
Yeah,
it's contorted itself and never come back to shape.
Yeah, and Cody mentioned that some people have done this plate carrier system before. Rogue Fitness and a company called Innovative Performance, I think, was the first to do it. and they call it the load trainer. And it's a great system. It works. You can take Olympic plates and strap them to your back, but you're using an Alice frame pack. And if anybody's ever used an Alice frame pack, I would rather just carry the 45-pound plate up the hill and with my bare hands than put it on my back at that point.
When you use it's an old military frame pack, and it's
your shoulder harness is aluminum.
You don't ever think about the word comfort.
Oh yeah,
no,
it's not even
horrible.
It's horrible.
So yes, if you're doing like a lot of the guys, like Rogue Fitness is very CrossFit related and stuff like that. So with those guys, they're usually doing like a 45-pound weighted 100-meter run or rated 100-meter trot or jog. With that, it's acceptable. But with this, that's not what we were going for. We're not
want to be able to hike all the way to the top.
Yeah, I did 4 miles. I did just 4 miles the other day with it on an actual trail, not in the neighborhoods. And I just got done with it, and the weight feels extremely natural. Instead of feeling like you've got 45 pounds on your back, you just kind of feel 45 pounds heavier. And that's a perfect example of what's going on. So of what's going on when you're wearing the pack. I mean, it's just an extra load on your legs just to give you that extra strength. Exactly. It's just a quad builder and an endurance builder, and I think it's going to be accepted really well.
I do too.
And I hope I'm going to use the living crap out of it. So, if it's going to benefit me, and I'm going to be better because of it. So, I'm stoked. I think people are really going to accept it.
I cannot wait to see what the people around my house in the park have questions about when I
live out in Fountain Hills, and I walk by there, and I think I'm going to get the cops called on me eventually because they're just not used to, first off, seeing anybody under the age of 30.
Under the age of 70.
Exactly. And so, I walk by with a 45-pound plate on my back, and I don't know what they assume, but I break necks when people walk by. I mean, and then people on the trails are always like, "Whoa, look at that! This is awesome." I mean, that's what this stemmed from. The guys over at Wilderness Athlete used to hike around with that so-called prototype that we had, a while ago of this plate carrier, and Kevin and Jesse and Kevin and Steve, I think it was, basically said, "Hey, we need to look into this because
we get
heckled. I mean, like they get yelled at, like, hey, what is that? What is that? From guys that are doing the trail with crappy sandbags in their back." And so that's where they said, they were like, we might need to look into this. And everything we've posted, every person that's seen the prototypes, because the prototypes are just sitting out in our showroom right now, I've been like, hey, what's that? Put me on the list. That's awesome. So it's going to be really cool. I'm excited about it, and we're going to have to get you set up with your prototype when we're done with this. So
I can take it to 13,500 feet.
Roger that.
So, guys, it's been awesome.
Yeah.
Jay, thanks for coming in again. We love it.
It's always fun.
Yeah. So, did you draw anything, Mark?
I did not draw anything in Arizona, but I've got a Wyoming tag.
Nice.
So we're all good. Yeah.
Cody, you got anything?
I don't.
Yeah.
But I do have to brag on our little guy up
front. The youngin'?
Cole Bruns, 23 South.
23 South.
Nice.
Early archery.
We will be there.
Nice. Yep. Awesome, guys. It's always good hanging out with you guys. Thanks for sharing your time and your knowledge. And, until next time, God bless, okay?
Well, appreciate it very much, sir. Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
All right.